Hey everybody, how's it? Aloha, this is Geebz here, your old composer here at the Decomposer Lounge, peeling back the layers and dissecting your favorite tracks. This is my double down here on Sunday, Nightwish. I am going to be doing The Poet and the Pendulum. This is a long track, so I'm going to keep my front side of this talking and yapping really short. I want to thank the Nightwish fans, the army. You guys were part of the beginning of my journey that blew up my channel. I shall never forget. But I've met some wonderful people in the comments. There's one gentleman who was, I guess, a general in the army who was very cool and sent me a list of songs. But as my channel grew, I got all, which way do I go? Also, one last thing I want to say that I think is so cool about this fan base is that when people come and they comment, they'll say stuff like, Nightwish Army showing up for duty or something but like from Uruguay or Argentina or South Africa or Laos or something, you know. It's really cool to see that. But I want to thank you guys who did help me keep my energy rolling forward on this, you big hardcore Nightwish fans. All right guys, let's do this. The Poet and the Pendulum, Nightwish. All right. I don't know that I can articulate what I'm truly feeling as a composer, and, you know, trying to separate myself from being that, which I'm afflicted, right? So I've got to listen to things the way that I do. But what an incredible experience this must be for the pure listener. And right now I feel like a pure listener. I feel like one of the fans in this, because I am dissecting the heck out of this, but the dynamics and the massive composition and arrangements that are going on with the orchestral work is absolutely mind-numbing. To this point, I've heard about just about every dynamic possible in an orchestra. Well, okay, let's say about 75% of dynamics when it comes to these powerful sections that they kind of glide in for. That opening and the beautiful voice, that operatic, beautiful voice. I forgive me, please, Nightwish fans. I don't know which vocalist this is. Please don't smoke me in the comments because it's been a while. But I'm just so taken back by what I'm hearing. I just, in my mind as a composer, I'm going, oh my God. I'm looking at the the orchestra, the sheet music at this in my head, just going. And if it was handwritten down, because I come from old school days when everything was handwritten down, and my father as well, and all my family. And I'm just looking at this, and I'm feeling like I have to focus on stop letting my brain do that and enjoy the power of the music. So just as I'm getting in and just taking in every piece of it, then when they come in with the power of the rock aspect of it, the blending of that engineering-wise is brilliant. Probably one of the most difficult things that I've heard and seen, and some of it not successful, is when there has been rock bands who have tried to blend in with orchestral work, and it really has to do with your engineer. And I believe that the members of Nightwish are intensely educated, and I'm sure a huge part of the start to beginning to the engineering. But what an incredible blend! I love that, but then I love this how it just drops out, and we have everything going when it comes to the fact that it's like, okay, now we're into a band kind of segment. And she's singing, she sounds fantastic. There's a little bit of string work going on in the back, but very light. And then of course they blow us away with this, and it's a little overwhelming for me because I'm trying to battle being composer brain doing a reaction and just going, wow, what a piece of work, and not breaking out in a sweat, in the back of my mind going, geez, what it would be like to read the sheet music. Okay, I'm going to go on for quite a while before I stop again because I really want to get into this. Thank you for being patient, but now I'm going to go back a little bit and then really just kind of let this thing fly for a while. So here we go.
Forgive me, I have no two faces, one for the world, one for God, save me. I cannot cry 'cause the show don't cry, so I cannot die. One for the whole My home was there and then
Okay, it's never a good time to stop in something like this, but that last passage that I just heard, where everything was brought down into that beautiful cello playing and everything, you know, as much as I did step away from that with my little composer ears there, and I just let the energy and the essence of the compositions kind of guide me through this passage, you know, without over listening, if you would. And it was so moving, and with that less is more ability with the dynamics of orchestrating, be it a single instrument, a small group of instruments, like a smaller section or a giant orchestra. It's just mind-numbing, the amount of emotion that can come out of it. Obviously, yes, you can come off of this huge, absolutely powerful choral orchestral composition, and everything's going, you know, 5,000 miles an hour to whoosh. Well, that's going to be an obvious change in energy, but at that point, the maneuvering of the arrangements and the dynamics and the nuances of the performance was mind-numbing. Something else I wanted to bring up just before that is there's these unique things that I've heard before, but I love it, and I'm hearing it here, is a lot of times in these, not a lot of times, because this doesn't happen a lot, obviously, this is a huge, massive piece. When a band is playing with an orchestra, now in this case this is a recorded piece, meaning it's not live. I think most of the stuff I've done on Nightwish has been live stuff from their concerts. And so you have different options. And one of the things that I find really great is that you have the drums and the guitars going, but then in a time where you might feel a drum fill coming, it might be a very light fill, but then the timpanis that are in tune with the actual performance in the same key, and they step in instead of where you might expect a drum, and you hear timpanis, boom, 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 you know, that kind of a thing. And still tying in the orchestral nuances while the band is doing more of what the band does as, you know, guitar, bass, keyboards, vocalist, drums. And then, boy, that was a heavy little piece where she starts talking and saying what she said there. That was pretty. This, please forgive me because I don't know, so I'm going to say this. This has got to be some kind of part of something that's existing. Is The Poet and the Pendulum a famous musical that I just am clueless about because I spent too much time in my life surfing and I'm waterlogged? I don't know. But the performance that I'm hearing right now, there are some, what I would say, soundscape power effects, you know, metallic, percussive things going on. I say, well, that kind of sounds like it might be going towards something slamming or whatever the case is. That's where media composer head takes over. So anyhow, let's just keep going. I just needed to stop there. It seems like we're going to go into another slamming little change here. I'll move it back a little bit and let's keep going. All right.
For years, I've been strapped onto this altar. Now I only have 3 minutes counting. I just wish the tide would catch me first and give me a death I always longed for.
Okay. Oh, shit. Something mental was about to happen there. I promise to go back. So, you saw me when I started the track. I started listening. Then I heard the riff come in, the guitar riff, underneath all these huge rip orchestral dynamics. And for those pure listeners, you lucky people that get to just sit there. When I talk about rip style orchestral work, it's these horns and these brass sections that are like, you know, you feel that ripping thing. Also, there are these, you know, cycled piccolo flute runs that accentuate that. And what's incredible, you know, working with an orchestra is a whole completely different beast, but it always still has to do with the capabilities within the tonal range. Who's holding the highest, you know, let's say from 5,000 to 10,000 K, you know, what are the more powerful instruments that resonate there, you know, the oboe and violins and piccolos and flutes, and then whether it's a reed section or the string section, percussion section, because tuned timpanis and stuff like that, and brass sections, they each have a representation in that tonal spectrum. To choose which ones to use and how to use them is somebody from the inside has to tell me if they can. You can email me on my About page on YouTube here. There's a little email. If somebody can tell me how long it took, if anybody has any insight on how long this composition took and stuff, because it is massive. It is huge. But I want to just go back really quick before I finish this. The riff I started hearing underneath the mix. So you saw me doing this. So when he kicked it into that, I was so blown away, and I wasn't expecting it. Loved every bit of it. I'm sure you could see me physically responding to it. But the vocals, and again, I don't know. Please don't smoke me in the comments. But it was that the bass player that did those vocals. Unfortunately, I guess he's left the band, I think, last year or something. But I guess he's a legacy member. But was that him, the bass player, doing those vocals? That was insane. That brought me right back into the core of what this channel was all about, like going, oh yeah. But then, once again, the orchestral work is just lighting me up. All right, so I'm going to be done talking for the rest of this. I'll go back a little bit, and then I'll close up with some remarks. I'll close with my remarks at the end. All right.
It's beautiful day. The music he wrote had too long been without silence. He was found naked and dead, with a smile on his face, pen, and 1,000 pages of erased text.
Jeez. What a genius way to end this track. Now, I'm sure that there is a massive story behind this song, and because I'm not experienced in the history of Nightwish or musical theater or anything like that, I'm probably making a fool of myself here, but that ending, funny though, right? I was just talking about the oboe earlier. I believe, if my ears don't deceive me, when it got into this last passage, this movement here, that was the oboe that we heard, that single. But I could be wrong. Good chance that I am, but you guys will straighten me out, lickety split. What I loved about that passage was it showed, without having to show you, the kind of pull dynamics have on an orchestra with that when the composer's writing the music that they're writing, how they want the musician to interpret what is written there. Now there's these dynamics that are on paper, decrescendos and all kinds of fun stuff that they can put on there, but having that also, it's one thing to have it on paper, then it's another thing to have it in a studio conducted. I've watched my father conduct hundreds of sessions, and depending on what mood, let's say, a session is in or whatever, you can get completely different dynamics, even though it might say the same thing on all the charts. It just depends on, if the musicians and my father in that case would, join at the creative pico, which in Hawaii is like, the connecting point. You get a performance. What I loved about it is not only was these beautiful string arrangements behind her voice so rich, but there was also, as the arrangement built, beautiful arrangements too, as the arrangements built, you also heard a little bit of the brass come back in. Right now, before I said brass rips and rop, and we're used to the brass stuff, Pirates of the Caribbean and Star Wars type work, and a lot of what was happening here used for that very powerful, aggressive sound. But they can also be such a beautiful, buttery, kind of super warm pad, if you would, to string composition. Same thing with the reeds as well, depending on how they're arranged. And then at this very last fading out section that I really also enjoyed about that process is, as the orchestra is, less and less arrangements that are coming through, I'm still hearing, of all things, when we think of a timpani, we think the big drum, and it's always very big, bum, ba, da, dum, accents and stuff. But they can act as such beautiful little nuances in the background, and it felt like I was hearing some really nice timpani work going on in the back at the end as well. But that's about as best as my ears can do. This was a long-ass video. Sorry, did I cuss? I did. My bad. But so well worth it. And once again, I want to thank all of you Nightwish fans and stuff who helped me start on my journey. I'm sorry it took so long to get back. I know I've learned a little bit more about Nightwish, the various singers and so on and so forth. And of course, recently, I guess the bass player, what I said earlier, change happens. It does happen, and nonetheless, though, the legacy of the music lives on, as we all know, right? If you're still here watching me. Anyhow, that being said, if you want to support me in the channel, I don't get any monetization if any ads run. It goes to the record company, it goes to the artists and stuff like that. So if you'd like to buy me a cup of coffee, or maybe go hang out on my Patreon. If you don't want to buy me a cup of coffee, maybe go over there to Patreon and get a little money's worth, if you would, with some of the stuff going on there. Also, the link for the Poet and the Pendulum, Spotify will be down below, as well as people who are interested in what headsets I'm wearing. That link will be down below as well. Anyhow, today, I did Dream Theater this morning and Nightwish. I think I'm completely tapped out with my abilities to pull back the layers. I think I'm going to go break off a gummy bear and chill out. So, I'm talking about a Harbo's gummy bear. What do you think I'm talking about? This guy. You guys take care. Aloha. All right.